Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, a show dedicated to helping you expand your capacity, take your life in every area to an entirely new level, and creating a day and a life by design. Here's your host, Dan Hafner. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Run Your Day podcast. As always, your host, Dan Hafner here. I'm joined by a very special guest today. I'm very excited, Mr. Matthew McGregor. I will introduce him here in a moment. But I'm very excited for this because I think they'll have some really good things to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about apps and business today. So hopefully I don't nerd out too much on this. But yeah, without any further ado, we're speaking with Mr. Matthew McGregor, who is a master of business growth. He is a speaker, an author, a coach, trainer, and is the founder and creator of 22 Apps. It's a software platform that allows anyone to create and design their own personalized mobile app for iPhone and Android to ultimately engage more people and market to an even larger audience. So how's it going, Matt? Nice to have you here.
Absolutely. It's going very, very good. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
All right. So I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of take us into what is 22 Apps.
Yeah, totally. So I got started in this kind of world, not with, apps. Apps are fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I actually got started where I was building digital marketing campaigns for people. So I built like funnels and webinars and launches and all kind of stuff for my clients. And one thing that I started noticing across the board for like all of them is that the amount of traffic and the amount of engagement they were getting on a regular sort of daily, or weekly basis was was bad, to put it simply. And the reason for that is number one, because a lot of them rely on like email marketing, and while email marketing like used to be, and people used to be so great, and people always talk about it being this thing that everybody needs. It is something that people should apply to their business, but it's just not where it used to be. In fact, just for me personally, I woke up this morning with 22 emails, and 0 of them were important. I didn't really need to respond to any of them. And it's like, there's all this clutter and digital noise that's going in our lives. And then when we turn to social media, it's not that much better. It's like Facebook and Instagram, they want you to pay to play. They want you to pay to run ads. And so they limit the amount of organic reach. And it's like, at the end of the day, whether it's email going to spam or promotions, or, not ever being looked at, or whether it's social media, not, where you're just not even appearing on the feeds at all because of the algorithms. It's like, what exactly can we do? And that's where the idea of apps was really born. And what I've done is I've created a platform that allows anybody to have their own mobile app, to use it not as just like another website, but as an actual marketing tool, where users can download it and access you and your world and what you're all about daily or weekly or however often. And then you can bring them back into the app through what are called push notifications, which for anyone listening are the little notifications, the little dings that pop up on your phone, whether it's from an app or you often see it as a text message, a phone call, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And for those of you that, you can access the Run Your Day podcast inside of the app that I have called Runwage, which you may or may not be listening to. But that's kind of how all of this is built as well. So I'm curious, why 22 apps? What's the number 22?
Sure. Yeah. The reason we chose that was because we were trying to come up with a really good name, and part of it is a lot of the domain names with apps are actually taken. And so when we stumbled across this domain name 22 Apps, it's like we looked into it, see what it really meant behind it. And what the number 22 stands for is like optimization and results and productivity. And we thought that really resembled like us as a company. So I thought that was cool.
So you're saying
Yeah.
the number 22 actually stands for all that, huh?
Yeah. Well, according to
Interesting.
Google.
Interesting.
According to Uncle Google.
Very, very interesting. Okay. So I guess you kind of answered my next question, which was going to be like, why apps? Why are they special? But you kind of answered that as well. So, why should a business have an app today? Whether it's a brick and mortar business or whether you have an e-commerce business, like why should you have an app?
Absolutely. So, um, the idea behind like as a whole, one thing I'll start off with is apps versus websites, if that's all right,
Yeah,
because I
no,
get that question a lot. Like,
definitely.
should I have an app when I already have a website? So uh, I feel like websites have their place, though, and I'll explain that. Though my kind of direction that I'm looking to go is I believe that all business owners should really have an app, as you were kind of saying. And the reason for this is two things. Number one, unlike whereas a website, um, uh, you might get somebody to come at once and they might go through all your stuff and that's fine and that's awesome, but it's unlikely that they're going to visit you again and again and again and again like every single day, and it's very unlikely that they're going there to engage in your world on a regular basis. Whereas with a mobile app, the idea behind a mobile app is to create consistent engagement. It's to have it right there on the home screen where all they have to do is touch it and it opens up your world when they click on it. And the idea is that you control the entire environment. You get to choose what goes in your app, what doesn't, how it's laid out, how the screens all connect together, how the flow goes, how you lead people through your sales process, all that kind of stuff. Whereas obviously like with other platforms, where, where with Facebook or something like that, sure, it might be on their phone, but there's like everybody else competing for the screen real estate on there. And then when you mix that in mobile apps with the push notifications, it makes it easy to bring them back into the app. And so you want to kind of think of it like um, this is an engagement tool. This is something that people can go back and use on a regular basis. And I'll go into some examples of engagement in a second, though I'll also add to the website thing. I don't think websites are like, as we move into this mobile app era, as I like to say, I don't think websites are dead per se. They definitely have their place, especially when it comes to being used for media, and like being featured in publications and getting recognized and having credibility and all that kind of stuff. Where people need to check you out like once or twice, it's perfect for that, but it's not the solution when it comes to engagement. So some examples of engagement in an app, as for a couple different business types. A lot of our clients are like coaches, consultants, people who do courses, health and wellness, relationships, like all this kind of stuff. And they've been using their app as almost like a resource app where when people download it, they can get access to all sorts of like content, videos, trainings, audio, all their stuff, and they can start to lead them through whether it's a series of courses or a series of funnels, even where they bring them from. As an example, one of my clients has it set up where she releases one video a day in this challenge sequence in her app. To when people download her app, it's like you get one video a day, and it leads them through not only a fantastic education process where they're being brought back to the app every single day, staying engaged, connecting with them, but it's leading, of course, to a sale at the end, which is for business owners the most important thing. So it can be a resource app. It can also be like a tool. One of my clients has it where he's got this cool business. Real quick, his name is David, and David's got this business where he sells. He's got these Keurig pods, like Daniel, like the Keurig coffee little pods you put in
Yeah.
the machine. It's go, yeah. Well, instead of having like coffee in them, he fills them with tea, and he has this branding on them, this well-off kind of branding, and it's like this mindfulness sort of tea Keurig product, whatever. Anyway, he didn't create his app around like tea. He created his app rather around supporting the brand. And so what he's done with his app is people log in every single day, and they basically rank themselves on how they've been doing that day, and it gives them this mantra card that they kind of read off, and these little gratitude kind of statements, and then gives them this list news for the day. And then if they check off all those to-dos, it gives them there's a little bit of gamification. There's some fireworks, there's some imaginary points, and that sort of thing. But then how it's monetized is when they get enough imaginary points, or they've been using the app long enough, it's going to say, hey, because you've been using this app daily, we want to reward you with a 48-hour coupon code. And so they actually feel like they earned it. They feel like, oh my goodness, I won, I earned this coupon code. So of course they're going to use it. Of course they're going to go buy something. So there's all sorts of use cases
Very cool.
with
Very
this.
cool.
Yeah.
You're speaking my language for sure. I mean, that's what I've built. So, but it's funny because I even worked for a while as a reseller, where I was actually working on building apps for businesses and stuff. And one of the most
Cool.
common things that I heard, and we might have business owners listening to this episode.
Yeah.
Like the most common thing I hear is like, well, why do I need an app? Like, I'm a photographer. Why do I need an app? And it was funny. I'm interested to see like what you would say about that, because like for me, like it was more of a mentality thing. It was more of like, hey, how can I take this asset and go bigger and go and kind of differentiate, was what I tried to like talk to them about. But I'm kind of interested, like when you hear someone say like, well, I don't need an app, like what do you say to that?
So in a lot of cases, it really is about they can't see it. It's too it's not mainstream. Like the idea behind 22 apps is we're trying to make apps mainstream.
Yeah.
But up until now, it's been very expensive. You hire a big development team to build the app for tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So people aren't familiar with how they work. And so I often, you really do have to be creative right on the fly and say, oh, here's an idea, here's a suggestion. Obviously there's all sorts of different ways people can go when it comes to building an app. It's different than a website or something simple like that. But I like to say the sky's really a lot higher. There's obviously a limit with Apple and Android, but the sky is almost a limit when it comes.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, I even worked with a lady one time. She doesn't use it anymore, but she ran like a boutique shop, or maybe it's not a boutique. I can't even think of the name what it was. It was like a refurbishing shop, right, where she would buy furniture and refurbish it, and she had classes, and she would sell tickets, and she did everything through Facebook. And when I talked to her about it, she was like, "Wow, an app would be awesome," right? So like it was that mental shift that happened, right? But you would never think like you're just walking down some random street in West Virginia and like, oh, this little store has an app, right? So
yeah,
that's interesting. So I guess like what are some of the shifts you're seeing with COVID-19 and all the different mobile behavior and even like mobile versus website behavior? What are some of the things you've seen over like since March?
Just there's a variety of things. The biggest thing for me that I've found is and it's interesting because other people I've talked to have not experienced this or can experience the complete opposite. But what I personally found, which is what I can share, is that the number of people attending my like any events or webinars or getting downloads or apps or whatever it is, the number of the traffic has dropped like very, very dramatically for myself. But then the conversions on that traffic that has entered into my world is about the same. So the of the number of people who come in, the number of buyers is about the same, but it's just way less people coming in. And so I believe that that's because of like the consistent engagement that I create in the world. And then another part of this, which I've been like, I run a mastermind on Wednesdays, and part of what I share with them is around with COVID-19, as business owners, or even as organizations or leaders or whatever it is you do, people are a lot more not less trusting, but less open to they need more trust built or more credibility or more time spent with somebody before they're willing to open up their wallet and say yes to something. A lot of people make the mistake of saying everybody has way less money right now, or is like way cheaper, or is not willing to open up their wallets at all. That's not true. It's just that they're concerned that they don't want to run out of money. And so it takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more connection, a little bit more time, but they're there.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Type
Well,
of thing.
that's an interesting thought too, because I'm speaking with somebody about that too, and they talked about how, with a lot of these businesses taking PPE loans or PPP loans or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah.
They actually have some more money. Plus, a lot of people I've heard even, and I can attest to this too. You almost have more money. I mean, for me, it's different because I stay at home and work, but for
Sure.
people that commute every day, they save all that money on commuting and eating out at lunch, and they actually find they have a lot more spending money. My parents are included in this. They're like, we have so much spending money. You know what I mean? Because they're like, we're not going out anymore. So it's the same. It's that consumer behavior, and I think a lot of people. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Of like, man, it's everyone's broke, but that's just not the case. But like, I think you're very on to something where it has to be a lot more specific and niched and very catered, right?
Yes.
That
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, I guess to shift gears a little bit, you're a co, or I shouldn't say co. You're a fellow podcast host.
Sure.
So I always like having people on here that host their own podcast because it's very fun. So what is his show is called The Successful Entrepreneur Show, right? Okay. Now, so what is that show about? Tell us a little bit about the show.
Yeah. Basically, I bring on people, other successful entrepreneurs, and we talk, we have some fun, we learn the secrets to their success and all that kind of stuff. It's very casual. We like to have fun. So yeah, that's about it though. It's just me featuring other experts.
Okay, a little bit like kind of what I do here with that. So, who's the most interesting person you've had on there? I mean, I wouldn't say the best. Don't single out people, but like, who's the most interesting person you've had?
Who's the most interesting person I've had? There's been some good ones. The most interesting has probably been this gal Rosalind Fung, as like I didn't really know what she did coming into it, and while I don't know if it was like, how do you say, the most insightful. We just got talking about like all these sort of like not talked about areas of business and like personal life and that sort of thing. She is a like I said, I didn't really know what she did, but I found out she's kind of like a sexual sort of relationship type of gal who's had a lot of success like in that area of business. And so she brought in a lot of the stuff around like us as entrepreneurs, as people, and working on ourselves. But it was in a way deeper way than I ever thought experienced in my life. I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I? This is great, but I didn't see this coming. It was kind of funny.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, well, and I guess maybe, and I like to do that too inside of this show. So, I mean, let's go a little bit deeper here. So, like when it comes to running a business, regardless of what it is,
Sure.
what do you feel like is the most common pitfalls that just lead
Yeah.
people astray or cause them to just give up or fail?
Yeah. That's funny you mentioned that, because I had an enrollment, like sales call, whatever you want to call it, yesterday with this gal, and she was asking me, okay, Matthew, should I focus my energy on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, or she's all over the map. She doesn't really know exactly what she wants to do. And I say, well, what's working for you now? And she said, right now it's LinkedIn, but everybody's saying I got to do these pieces over here. And I'm of the thought to say, um, uh, forget what all the gurus are telling you about you've got to do every single thing under the sun and try and figure everything out. Because if you try and do everything, you're going to do everything either badly or okayly, but
Yep.
nothing's going to be excellent. And so I'm under the impression of whatever your main method is to get clients and like customers, and whatever you are good at and like, do that. And then as you scale, you can hire on team members to take care of the other stuff. I'm not a big, I don't, you may be able to tell, I'm not a huge fan of posting every day on social media. I've hired somebody on to take care of that, now that I'm able to. And joint venture partnerships are essentially where you have other experts in the industry promote you, mail for you, vouch for you, and if they sign up one of their students, you pay them a commission. So that's how I built my business without investing a single dollar. Is through joint venture partnerships. As with like Facebook ads, you got to put a lot of money in to make a lot of money. With joint ventures, you don't have to put any money in to make a lot of money, because everything's paid after sale.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, you kind of cut out there right in the middle, but
Oh,
um,
shoot.
no, that's okay. That's okay. But I think that's very good because I experienced that too, and I'm sure a lot of people that might end up listening to this, kind of experience that, and especially when you get started, um, I run into people all the time that just have like 90 ideas, and like there's just, oh, this idea is good, and I was this guy 100%. I was like, oh man, I could do a business in that, and like that's $1 million idea, and like, oh man, there's this one, and then there's this one, and that's great. That's great if you have that start. But when you let that get in the way, and you let, like you said, kind of the influence of the gurus or the social media world out there get in your way of like just deep dive focusing on like one thing or like one thing per day, um, that's when you really go vertical. And I think it's hard for people to actually understand that until you actually do it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you have experience with that? Like of just being like
Yeah.
too many nets or too many,
Yeah. Couple of years ago, I I tried. It's a long story, but like basically, I tried starting a personal development business um, at the same time as I was trying to grow like the funnel webinar kind of business that I had before jumping into the mobile app world. Um, and I basically spent 6 months of time just working at it straight. And it ended up making about $4,000 after 6 months of work, and it was a very big waste of time. And of course, the reason for that is because I had my attention split, and uh, it was a challenge to be able to serve the clients at the highest level, market at the highest level, and do all the things when, one business requires one thing and this business requires a completely different set of things. And especially when you're trying to make a public image for yourself, people get confused on, I thought he was doing this, now he's doing this. That doesn't make any sense. So that's my story of that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
work.
100%. And I've kind of experienced that too myself with having an app and then doing a podcast. But then once I finally figure out how to tie them both together, it was kind of like, oh, okay,
Then it's magic.
this is magic. So, okay, well, I mean, that's about all the questions I had. I actually like to have someone. If you have any, do you have one question that you'd like to ask me? I know I didn't prepare you or anything.
Sure. Yeah.
One question.
Who's your biggest favorite mentor or hero, or that type of person, and why?
That's a good question. So weirdly enough, I've never followed Tony Robbins till recently. But he's not even my guy. There's a guy by the name of Garrett J. White.
Hmm.
He's the founder of a movement and a company called Wake Up Warrior. I've been following him, been part of his program for a little over 2 years now, based out in California, and it has radically changed my life. It was the start of this whole podcast, my app, my whole entrepreneur. Well, I was down the entrepreneurial path, kind of getting there. But then when I started that, the past 2 years was when I really started following Garrett in the Wake Up Warrior movement. And why I follow him is I was never good at constructive criticism. I was very sensitive. I would always let people get to me and be under my skin. And there's just something about the way that he speaks. And there's something about um, the message that he continually talks about that just clicked with me. Like it clicked, I was like, huh, okay. And it was more of that self accountability, that take responsibility type of deal, like, general topics, but like more deep dive into things. So yeah, he's my guy. I started trying to follow a bunch of people, and I was like, you know what, if I just study everything he's done and everything he's got, like, it'll be good. And it's really, really I shouldn't say turn my life around. It's changed my life radically. So I would highly recommend everyone look into that. So
Very cool.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's my guy.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll just wrap this up. Thank you very much for joining. Would you just go ahead and share where people can find you and engage with you further if they enjoyed this?
Yeah, the best thing to do would just simply be to go over to 22apps.com, 22apps.com, 20apps.com, and then you can check out, obviously the platform. You can contact me. You can, we can talk and see if it's right for you, or just hit me up, add me on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah,
Of
and he's
course.
Matthew McGregor, not Conor McGregor, Matthew McGregor.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That is it, everyone. I appreciate you guys. That's going to be a wrap for the show. If I'd highly consider you to go check out his website. It's very, very cool. And this is where I'm going to nerd out a little bit, but I mean, I'm a big app fan, and I like this technology and the way that things have changed. I never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams would have thought that I'd ever be able to make an app. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So, all right, everyone, that is going to be a wrap for the show. As always, I appreciate you joining. This is Dan Hafner signing off. Make it a great rest of your day. Hey, have you ever thought about joining a virtual run challenge? As COVID-19 continues to upend our lives and change our life routines, finding fresh ways to challenge yourself physically can be difficult. I know I'm having trouble with that. It can also be pretty hard to connect with others and find accountability partners for the purpose of fitness as well. That's why we created Runwage Virtual Challenges. Runwage Challenges are a new and exciting way to stay physically active and maintain social distancing. Every challenge takes place 100% online, and you can compete against and engage with runners from all over the world. Best of all, they are the only virtual challenges out there which actually reward participants with real cash. That means you have no excuse for staying inactive during this pandemic. So if you've been looking for a fresh and interesting way to stay active and get your miles in, go to runwageapp.com/virtual challenges to join me and the diverse community of runners already competing. That's runwageapp.com/virtual challenges. Can't wait to see you there.